I actually enjoyed this book more than Lights Out.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
just because this was a higher stakes book in terms of Navessa Allen's writing. There was a lot
Yeah.
more on the line. She wasn't playing it safe with any of the themes, any of the tropes. So I actually would give this one a 5. Just because of,
Well,
and that's just because of,
yeah.
there's just so much that she went into and so many hot topics that she went into, and she did it very well.
So 2 5 stars from us. That's pretty fucking good, I have to say. I think that's good. That's great, actually. So I guess we're not in the camp of all the people who were like, "Caught up wasn't for me."
The one with the 3 of them and the piercings. I don't know what it is about piercings, because this is the same thing I had with Anathema. I'm like, the piercings, they must hurt, man. But he has like
at the end. I thought you meant
yeah, I mean, I think all of these books, especially dark romance too, explores that are really taboo, and I think that is still, while a lot of people have piercings and things like that, I think talking about that like in a book, especially at this level, is not done that often. The motorcycle thing does to me kind of tie to Lights Out, and that's because it's so book talk right now, the whole motorcycle, all of that, the dark romance trope mystery. So I do wonder if people thought because of the motorcycle cover that they were going to get something like that when they read Caught Up versus what we actually got. Again, we shouldn't be making assumptions like that, but I could see that.
Never judge a book by its cover.
Quite literally, yeah. Let's not do that. I mean,
Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
And sometimes dark romance, like in this case.
Yep. Now dark romance.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, maybe a little morally gray, and definitely spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. Here's your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Yes. And going forward from here, this is your spoiler warning. The thought and intent is that you've already read books 1 and 2 of the Into Darkness series, which will be Lights Out. And of course, tonight we are covering Caught Up, both of which are by Navessa Allen. Her 3rd book in the series has yet to be released, but we will be talking about both books tonight. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy, because the best stories are told after dark.
All right, let's get into tonight's drink of the episode. Tonight, we have what I'm calling the Velvet. And of course, we had to go with red as the color of this drink because one of Lo's famous quotes in this book is that one of her favorite colors is red. One of the notable quotes is, "He's ruthless, a walking red flag." Good thing red is my favorite color. Perfect. So I knew from the jump that we were going to have to do a red drink. But guess what? We're also taking a little trip to Italy because in this drink, we have limoncello and Prosecco, both of which reign from Italy. So I had to definitely bring in that Italian mafia drink vibe to this red sparkly drink. I thought for sure for the BYOB Velvet that the bartenders would definitely whip up a drink like this. It has the Prosecco, like rosé color. Then it has grenadine, a little bit of grenadine for that redness color, limoncello, and fresh lemon juice. So that makes up our full cocktail. And yeah, so there you go, the Velvet. We're garnishing it with 2 maraschino cherries. We got our Caught Up drink. So I was really excited about this one because I was like, I can incorporate Italy, I can incorporate red, I even put some silver sparkly edible glitter in there. I'm like, I got so many things to work with this. And I just thought it was really fun. I was like, we have to do something with red flag, obviously.
Of course.
Junior
is a complete red flag. I mean, there's no morally gray about him, right? He's pure black with like a drop of white, maybe. But I love how it's incorporated in the drink.
No, Lo is the white knight. And she like even says that about herself. She's like, I am my own white knight. Like her. But I thought the drink of the episode, I wanted to incorporate all the things. And I feel like we were successful in that. So cheers.
Cheers.
Go. Obviously tonight we are exploring Caught Up by Navessa Allen. So just as we did before with Lights Out, and just as we kind of do with our thrillers, this won't be like a full submersive chapter by chapter deep dive, but more of like a broader overview, our star rating, our overview of it, a breakdown of some of the characters, how this ties together overall in the series, and then just kind of general fan vibes and the whole deal with this book. So I feel like that's going to be kind of our coverage. And then we will wrap up with mystery Q&A and what we've got coming up next for Book Club After Dark. So let's get into it.
So let's go star ratings. Danny, what is your star rating for Caught Up?
You know, it's funny because we were just talking about this the other day about how I'm like, you know, this is going to age myself for those who didn't watch Oprah growing up as a child. Where
you get a 5.
Give out, yeah. They get to see like Oprah's favorite things at Christmas. So for those of you who know what I'm talking about, awesome. For those of you who do not, it was definitely a thing. And her phrase was like, you get this, and you get a car, and you get a car, or you get a refrigerator, whatever it was that she was like giving away. And so I'm definitely a less strict rater than you, Michelle. And I think I give 5s out like candy. However, I feel really justified so far as a series. I can't speak for book 3, but so far I feel like the series as a whole will be a 5 for me. I mean, it kind of has to be because I really enjoyed this book too. And for similar reasons to why I love Lights Out. And I think a part of that has to do with talking about the taboo in a way that's accessible and also not in a shameful way. And I thought that she does that very well, while also making it accessible to someone who's never been a part of that world. So I think she does a very good job at that. She does a good job at comedy elements. And this was like her mafia romance, you know, so it's very different than Lights Out, but I feel like it was unfairly rated by the masses. I think they all expected a similar book to Lights Out, and this is not that. But I still give it a 5. I had a great time. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it definitely in ways that I didn't think it was going to go down. I thought the way that this mafia romance was written in terms of a dark romance was different because usually, yeah, you know, Junior's not great, but everything with Lo is consensual. Whereas a lot of dark mafia romances, they are truly like really, really dark. And there isn't that in this book. And I enjoyed that about this. So that's kind of my thought, I guess, on my rating. What about you?
I actually enjoyed this book more than Lights Out.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
just because this was a higher stakes book in terms of Navessa Allen's writing. There was a lot more on the line. She wasn't playing it safe with any of the themes, any of the tropes. The fact that she talked about sex work in such a way with Lo and, you know, having, like you said, like different taboo topics and addressing them in such a manner that made it not condemning to those who might delve into those, you know, like that's your cup of tea. So I think because these two characters were I think they were a lot more difficult to navigate, and she did them as well as she did as Lights Out, and maybe even better, but I'm giving her more points just because this was a higher stakes book in terms of writing, because with Lights Out, like, yes, you have Morley Gray, but you have the golden retriever, and you know, there was some balance there in terms of really making people comfortable with a topic that's dark romance. But here there wasn't a lot of comfortability in terms of the topics being talked about, because the two characters they're not soft and warm characters.
No.
So I thought, and I always like, you know, my big thing with dark romance is if it's like non-consensual, then I'm like not about it. So again, I also do appreciate that. So I actually would give this one a 5. So just because of, and that's just because of there's just so much that she went into and so many
Yeah.
hot topics that she went
She did.
into, and she did it very well. So
Yeah.
kudos for doing that.
Agree. And I felt like it was a lot of people feel like, oh, I've read mafia romance. Especially if you're a dark romance reader, you have read a lot of mafia romances. It's almost unavoidable in the genre to not have read some type of mafia
Right.
romance in the dark romance genre world.
I think this was
And
my
I think,
second one.
yeah.
My
Okay.
second mafia romance. Den of Vipers, that was my first one. I was like,
Yeah.
this is a genre. This is a subgenre.
I really
And
like Den of
I thought
Vipers too.
I thought I would hate it, but I didn't hate it as much as I thought I
Okay.
would. So, yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, so 2 5 stars from us. That's pretty fucking good, I have to say. I think that's good. That's great, actually. So I guess we're not in the camp of all the people who were like, Fun Up wasn't for me. It wasn't as good as Lights Out or any of that, because there was a whole lot of that in the book talk space.
I honestly think people didn't give Caught Up a chance just because they were expecting Josh, and the way Nico is, like, Nico's not a Josh whatsoever. But I enjoyed his character arc better. Like, yes, Josh had to overcome trauma in terms of, like, you know, battling his identity. But, and for Nico or Junior to basically say fuck you to his mob family is crazy. Like, family's everything. He has familia tattooed on his arm. And that's a major aspect in, like, Italian mob. You know, if you don't have family, you don't have anything. And the
Right.
way that he stands up for Lauren, stands up for her views, and stands against, like, all of the very traditional misogynistic type of views that are portrayed in the mafia is so huge. So I enjoyed his character arc more. There was more at stake for him in terms of,
Yeah.
you know, what he had to lose. So that's just
Yeah, I
my
agree.
perspective.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on. I wonder too if people thought that Lauren, on the same side that Junior isn't Josh, you know, Lauren is also not Allie.
No.
In the sense that she's just a very, very different female main character. She's a cam worker. Her storyline is going to be very different. And I just wonder if people struggled with that piece of they couldn't see themselves as these characters or something to that effect. And maybe that impacted why they had that rating. I don't know. I'm glad we both disagree with it and we found our own joy in this book because it was a fast, fun read. I had a good time reading this book. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the spice was great. I thought a lot of the things that they talk about with like kind of taboo subject lines was really well done, and I agree with you. But let's get more into the actual story. So let's go through our overview of Caught Up. So obviously Caught Up is a dark, erotic, second chance romance. And when I tell you that I had never thought I was going to rate a second chance romance a 5-star,
You hate redemption
second
arcs.
chance is not for me. I do. So like this is like a big BCAD deal. Like this is a big BCAD, like big book club after dark moment that I'm rating a second chance a 5-star. I don't even like reading second chance. Second chance is like redemption arcs. Clearly not for me, but clearly I guess they are. I don't know because here we are. So maybe we're just changing our mind one book at a time. And Navessa got me. I like the fact that we had like our first book where we didn't explore this type of second chance. Book one is really more, I wouldn't say contemporary dark romance because what is that? But it doesn't have like a specific, like this book has second chance, right? Book one is more like Josh becomes kind of a golden retriever type boyfriend in a trope world. Also stalking, obviously, is the big one there. Nick / Junior, Nico, all three kind of goes down that road a little bit, but it's definitely not one of the major themes in this book. It's definitely more about the second chance is the biggest theme. And what we're going to see in book 3 that's coming out in March is we're going to see true enemies to lovers with Tyler, who's introduced towards the end. And we also get introduced to the female main character in a very roundabout way. So we'll get there, but start off, that's kind of the basis of Caught Up. This is a second chance romance. It's definitely erotic. It's definitely dark.
What was her pepper score for this book, would you say?
Oh, this
We
one was
gave
more of a
Lights out of
4.
4. Or didn't we
No,
we gave Lights out of 4.
would say this is more 4.5 to 4.5, I would say. Because there's like some extra scenes and it dives into voyeurism, which is
Mhm.
a taboo topic. And, with her being a sex worker, cam girl, and
Mhm.
owning partial owner of Velvet, which is a sex club, I feel like there's a lot more sexual elements in this one. And it
Yeah.
explored a lot more. Like, sex for Josh and Allie was like a healing process for them. And here
Mhm.
it is too, but it's more of like a sense of freedom for
Yes.
Allie and in
Yep.
her healing and her
And an
freedom to explore.
exploration. Yeah.
Yeah,
Part of exploration for
because
Nick as well. To have that
right,
type the rigidity of the life he's lived. Yeah.
mhm,
Mhm. I would agree.
which is something that she was like very worried he wouldn't be a part of just because of mafia life. And her past as like in high school, she was, because of their trauma, she was picked
Yeah.
on. She was slut shamed essentially in
Yeah.
high school for dating
Mhm.
Nico or Nick when he was in high school. And then he, like, they did some stuff and then he dumped her, but it's for her own good and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, it essentially ruined her life, and this is her taking back her life in terms of
Yeah.
like her identity, and it's a
Mhm.
lot of it has to do with sexual identity here. So I would
Mhm.
say it's more of a 4.5, maybe a little bit higher. What about you?
Yeah, so for me, a 5 would be like, I have no plot. There's no plot. It's literally just page after page of
S-
that, and honestly, like, sex scenes almost take away from the plot. I don't think that happens here, so therefore it won't be a 5. I do
We have an
think
example of that.
I have some examples, yes. That Split or Swallow novel comes to mind right away.
I honestly wouldn't rate that a 5 though, because some of the sex isn't. I would still say that's like a 4 to a 4.5, just because, yeah, yes, it takes away from the plot, but like it's not, the sex
But there's
itself
so much
wasn't
of it.
like, there's so much of
Yeah,
it,
but
but
yeah,
the
that's
sex
true.
itself was like kind of, sometimes it's like very vanilla. Like, okay, we're just gonna, all right,
But that's what I
we're just
mean,
gonna
like,
do
it
this
doesn't
again.
drive plot, like, we're just gonna
Yeah.
keep doing this again, like, they just we didn't we got it, we get it, and that was kinda my thing, and, like, that yeah, we're talking about Kiss of the Basilisk, for those who don't know. No hate on Kiss of the Basilisk, but I'm
No,
just
not, I'm
saying,
gonna read book 2. It's a wild ride, but yeah.
wild ride. But know going in that you have so much spice that there will be moments where you're like, you may even wanna skip
Oh,
over the spice
yeah.
because you're just like, "Okay, heard. We're doing it again. We like each other. Great." That to me, like, I don't read a lot of those for that reason because I want
Mhm.
the plot. I don't mind
Yeah.
having a few of these scenes here or there, but I really don't want to be overwhelmed with it because I think it takes away from the overall story and it
Mhm.
doesn't drive plot. But in this book, as a 4.5 though, or even a little over a 4, I would say and agree with you, is it drives plot. All of it was necessary. All of the parts with their relationship were driving their character arc in particular. I do think in book 3 we will see some of that, but I think there's gonna be less spice in book 3 versus
Yeah.
what we saw in this book in particular between these 2 characters
Right.
because of who we're talking about in book 3
Mhm.
and versus also same with book 1. Yeah, this is what Navessa likes to do is explore sex in a way that has to do with the development of these characters in adulthood and how they are navigating that in their personal lives, and you kinda get a glimpse of that as the reader. I think we very much get that here as well. Yeah, so that would be my rating. Lauren Marchetti, Nico Jr. Trochi are our 2 main characters. They're tied together by this violent past, which we talked about a little bit more, and they have this toxic chemistry that's just, like, undeniable. They're just as soon as they're in a room together, it's magnetic. There's definitely a lot going on. And now I'm thinking about it, the only scene that I thought may have not been necessary was the one in the church. That one that one maybe we could have not done, but
It was
overall
a little much. I mean, but it was heightened. There was heightened anticipation there, and
yeah,
that's. in a
It
confession
was symbolic
booth.
too, I feel like, given
Yeah,
everything that
because
she had been through. Yeah. So it was more than just the scene
especially,
itself.
yeah,
Mhm.
because she even like faced ridicule in the church from
Yeah,
church family
that
because
church
yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So,
So
which is
there
why
was
Junior
some
slashed some tires, but and we
yes.
love that.
Yeah. So again, Laura is a cam worker, sex worker online, and she's a very big advocate for what she does. She's trying to bring safety and awareness to the political parts of this town or city, major city that they live in that's not identified, but there's talks of it being like Gotham and things like that. There's definitely winter months. So it kind of reminds me of Chicago area or maybe a northeastern city. They don't identify what city it is, but she's rebuilding her life after quite a bit of trauma because her father is awful and also
Yeah.
part of the mob and not a great person. Her mother abandoned her, and her sister have like a pretty turbulent relationship. So Lauren doesn't have a lot except her grandmother, who's kind of her bestie and also just someone who's a badass who supports her and what she does and doesn't have that judgment of her. And I loved her relationship with her grandmother. That to me was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed her one-liners and just her being so like ridiculous in like little coffee shops and having these moments with her grandmother and Lauren just having those moments together was a lot of fun to read.
Right. Right.
Junior is also tied to the mob. Imagine that. He is the eldest brother and mafia heir to the family, the Trochi family, that is basically a part of the mob is kind of spread out over multiple families, and his family in particular are basically the people that disappear people. That is what their family does. There's a lot of grave digging conversations between him and his brothers. There's a whole lot of things that go on here. It's portrayed how much involvement he has with his family. He doesn't have another job. This is his job. Working for his father in this world is his job. So the story goes that their lives are going to collide again, and they're going to have to get over this. And by collide again, basically Junior shows up and is like, finally, your dad, who caused a lot of the problems, I now know that he's not going to kill me if I come and talk to you 10 years later after all this happened. And
But
he
he doesn't
finally
just
takes
like
it.
show
Yeah.
up though. He's been like
No.
watching her
Oh, yeah.
literally since he left. He's been watching her
Oh, yeah.
the whole time. He's like her biggest supporter, and they
Uh-huh.
chat all the time, and but she doesn't know her identity. So he doesn't like, for her he shows up, but for him he's like, I've been around, but now I'm just going to talk to you and like
Great, because
be in your
he's
face about
literally
it.
this man on her cam girl website thing, like the
Mhm.
largest,
He
like the
gives the
most
most
long
money.
subscriber, the most like private session money, everything has been him, but she doesn't know this, of course. So we know this pretty much right out of the gate that that's who he is and how he's been supporting her. And she finally decides, like, all right, I can finally go talk to her now because I've been waiting this long for her dad, Tommy, who's a real piece of shit, to be out of the picture. And he finally is at a certain point. For a large part of the book, you think he's dead, but he's not. And we find that out later. And thus the
He's just
Italy drink. But if he wasn't
living his
dead
best
or was
life in
dead,
Italy.
it's like, sure. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Forced vacation to Italy. So let's get into the plot and the introduction. So our introductions is where we first understand who our characters are, which Danny already covered in our overview. But the novel does begin from Junior's perspective. So we
Mhm.
do, like in Lights Out, we get the dual perspective, which I always love. And in the audiobook, we also have two very good voice actors that portray both the characters. So in this intro scene, he's literally disposing of a body that with his brothers, and he's talking about how, like, he has an apartment. He doesn't live at the house, actually. He has his own apartment because he has to get away from all the pressures of mob life. And he's really exhausted by the constant violence. I mean, imagine like your job is to like unalive and dispose of people. That can get exhausting, especially when you're in like,
Yeah.
your
Your
late
20s.
20s. Yeah.
Like your whole 20s has been that.
Yeah. Well,
Anybody
since
would be
before
like,
then, yeah,
yeah.
because he was being
You've been,
dragged
like,
into it when he
groomed
was
to
in
do
high
this?
school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a lot. But the body that they are what we think in the beginning is disposing of is Tommy Machete, but it's honestly, it's a fake body. We find out later on. And, Lauren has been Junior's really teenage obsession. He's still that, like we talked about. And then we switch to Lauren Machete. And Lauren we get thrown into like her being a cam girl, which is pretty detailed graphically. And because she has two roommates. We have Taylor and Ryan. And Ryan is Lauren and Taylor's editor, producer in type of way. So Lauren and Taylor are both cam girls with their different things, and Ryan videos them. Yeah. And they all live together, and we're just thrown into that. I was like, oh, okay, we're not going to like ease us into anything. We're just gonna be like, bam, scene.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of conversation about how Ryan is their camera person and like all the things poor Ryan is like subjected to as part of this, but how like open and welcome they are. But I also thought from like a safety standpoint, how nice it must be to, if you are in that line of work, knowing that you have really supportive roommates that are understanding of what you're doing and that you guys are all kind of there for each other and you get it. I enjoyed that part of this book too. I thought that was nice. Nice add-on.
I did too. Ryan has some quirky comments that they make throughout the book because, they really have to get in there. The angling and the editing, like they edit everything.
Yeah.
So Ryan literally watches the same thing over and over. It's like your best friends, pleasuring themselves, for like whatever the person on their site asked for. So they have a very, very close relationship. And I, like you said, like this whole group really just embodies acceptance and normalization of what sex work is. And it really contrasts with Lauren's past and the slut shaming, betrayal, and really the scandal that she experienced involving Junior when he like just up and left her, felt used and abused and all that. And like later we find out that Junior was like trying to do the right thing and honestly just fell like flat in terms of like him trying to cut ties, make sure she's safe, because he understood like the mob, like his parents' perspective, both of their parents' perspective on them dating was awful, and he didn't want to drag her into it. But the way he went about getting rid of people and ruining people's lives is a little sketchy, especially for a teenager. Let's plant some weed and ruin the life. But also that girl was slut shaming, so she kind of deserved it. We don't do that. And then we find out Lauren's favorite subscriber is NT95, who is Nico.
Correct.
And he's been doing that. He's been subscribing for years, watching and sending custom requests. And she is always so happy to oblige. And they actually like text and kind of talk about personal stuff, So, now that Tommy is out of the picture, Nico wants to earn her back.
Yep. And there's a moment where now that they have a moment to have their paths cross, Junior's not like letting more time stand in between this. So he knows that she's going to be at their family church, their family Catholic church. Junior's mother's Irish and she's Irish Catholic. And then her married into family is Italian and they're Catholic too. So that's like a big thing here is Catholicism is notated here. And there is shaming that goes on at the church while Lauren is there, like comments that are made, and her grandmother supports her and doesn't allow it, and she's obviously bothered by it, but she's also just like, I'm not going to allow anyone here to like make me feel less than. So Junior witnesses this and is there, and she notices him, but there's this moment whenever she's trying to leave, and he definitely corners her, and there's this like moment, this brief moment of tension between them where ultimately they part ways, and she's like, why did I even like let him get close to me? Like I have like a 1 strike rule, and like that's it. Like I'm not going to go down this road again, type of thing.
Because of him.
Of course, right.
He is the reason why the rule exists.
And At that point, he also put a tracker in her bag. So we know there's a tracker in her purse from that point too. So she goes back home and she kind of like lets this know. But we find out that eventually Junior starts to track Lauren, obviously, and thinks that she's going to be at home one of the nights. And he doesn't really know about Velvet at all because at this point he hadn't been tracking her. He had only kind of just been watching her from a distance. Like he'd go watch her apartment on his bike. He rides a motorcycle, obviously, hence the cover of the book. The motorcycle thing does to me kind of tie to Lights Out. And that's because it's so book talk right now. The whole motorcycle, all of that, the dark romance
Yeah.
trope mystery. So I do wonder if people thought because of the motorcycle cover that they were going to get something like that when they read Caught Up versus what we actually got. Again, we shouldn't be making assumptions like that, but I could see that
Never
maybe
judge a
that
book
would
by its
be
cover.
quite literally. Yeah, like, let's not do that. I mean, love a good cover, but let's not judge the entirety of what we think is going to be in the book on
Right.
that classic phrase for a reason. Anyway, I digress. Follows her on the motorcycle here and there just to check in on her apartment, but doesn't actually follow her to where she goes. So he doesn't know about Velvet, which is, you had mentioned earlier, Michelle, this basically a sex club or kink club or toy club or whatever you want to call it. That is a private established club. There's many
Members
conversations
only.
about
Yeah.
members only, very clean. They don't serve alcohol. There's a whole bunch of city requirements to be able to run something like this. And there's cameras, there's security. It's very, very well locked up. That's something that Lauren personally has invested in. And there's other investors involved in it where each individual room has different things and kinks and things like that you can kind of explore with your partner. And the whole intent is to be an open and safe space for exploration in this way. So Lauren's a part owner of this, and Junior follows her to this because he's like freaked out. He's like, where is she? Is she like okay? Like he thinks something's wrong. So he figures out where she is and that it's Velvet. And then he's instantly really, really jealous. And the way I was just like, sir, you literally like, you what? What? He's finally like, I'm back in her life and I'm unwilling to like give her up again at this point. So I'm going to fight for what he decides is his. And so there you go.
Right. Okay, so before we get into, because they ultimately go into a show, right? She specifically tends to favor the voyeur room, and he follows her into there, and then they see a show. But there are multiple scenes that involve different rooms. Which one kind of which one surprised you, or was something that you were not expecting in terms of what was written for those?
Honestly, because it's not my first dark romance, and none of them really surprised me that much, to be perfectly fair.
Okay.
I was not taken aback specifically by any sort of one of them. I don't know what that says about me, but I just wasn't. I was here for the vibes, went along with the ride. I wasn't like at any certain moment throughout any of that.
Okay.
It sounds like
Fair.
you might have been. So were you?
The one with the three of them and the piercings. I don't know what it is about piercings, because this is the same thing I had with Anathema. I'm like, the piercings, they must hurt, man. But he has like piercings
at the
all the way
end.
up
I
his
thought you
thing.
meant like
Yeah.
specifically like the rooms themselves.
No,
or
I'm
whatever
talking
that
about
was described.
the scenes
Oh, you
that
meant
were
the actual scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of these books, especially dark romance too, explores things that are really taboo, and I think that is still, while a lot of people have piercings and things like that, I think talking about
Absolutely.
that like in a book, especially at this level, is not done that often.
No.
And so I agree with you that one was, if all the ones that were like going to be shocking, I think that one probably was for sure one of the most shocking. Yeah, I wasn't surprised given the nature of what it was, but I think that's also what pushes
Right.
this into over a 4.5, is that sometimes there are scenes where I get it. It drives plot sort of. The moment that they're having while this is going on drives the plot, whatever, exploration, all of that. But also like, is there stuff that's shock value to be shock value? So you kind of have to like look at it like that. Yeah.
Right,
So,
right. It didn't bother me. I was just like, oh, they're
yeah.
those are things. that I didn't even think
Yeah.
about. And yeah, that whole part. Well, there were both aspects. That one was, I think that was a 2-chapter long one because you
It was
have
pretty
both of
long.
their
Yes.
perspectives
There's a lot of it there.
as the scene is was
Yeah.
going. So you have what's going on with the crowd, which is a big
Yeah.
aspect
Mhm.
in the voyeur room, and then you have what's going on between Lauren and Junior, and then you have what's going on stage. There was a lot to take in with that those
Yeah.
2 chapters. I was like, "Oh, okay. This yeah." And just the piercings. I don't It's not that I'm against them. It's just I always try to think of like the logistics and I
That
just can't wrap my head around it
yeah.
sometimes.
There's like a
So
meme
that's just
about
a
this
me
where
thing.
there's somebody like when you're trying to imagine the spicy scenes and you've got like a leg on your shoulder and like your arm is somewhere and you're like trying to like how
How
is
are we
this
gonna
yeah, like what and you're trying to figure out how the hell like the body mechanics would work of something like this. Yeah, I definitely understand where
Yeah,
you're at with that for sure. I also thought that there was definite foreshadowing. The fact that we kept coming back to the same type of thing, I was like, well, clearly, like by the end of the book, we're probably going to end up being
here. Yeah.
on stage ourselves. That's what I
Which I
figured would
love that for
happen.
them.
Which,
That
yeah,
was like a
which
full
it did
circle
happen.
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah, for them and their character arc and all of that. The fact that Junior, his first, so in this part of the book, this the first time he's been exposed to any of this, he's like, "What's going on? Why
mhm.
do I like it?" And then now he's like on stage performing. So I did enjoy that part. And that's again more of like he had a lot to give up because, the mob
Yeah,
and family, and that's like something that he was groomed into, and now he's living this completely different life and he's happy. He's not
yeah, and I think part of
burying
it
dead
is, like,
bodies
he
anymore.
finally has his own choice and feels the
Yeah.
freedom that Lauren does of having his own choice, and there's something to be said about, like, that sexual freedom aspect of that and, like, decision making and, having a partner to explore whatever you're gonna explore with and understanding in adulthood that the rules are kind of what you make them, and I think Navessa Allen in both books and then even in her third book, one of the overarching themes that she has is the importance of being with someone who accepts all of you, even for the things you may not know that you're into or not into, and not having shame in that. Because a lot of the things that Josh talked with Allie about or things he wrote about in his perspective were related to shame and her
Yeah,
not feeling shame for being into something that might be a little bit taboo or might be a little bit different and accepting her for those things. And I think that's the overarching theme in this book as well of Lauren constantly having this uphill battle of proving who she is and not wanting to have to change for who she's going to be with, while he's also going through a similar thing of having to find himself. Identity is a huge part of this story, and I think it's so much more than the sex on the page. There's so much more happening as far as their character development.
absolutely.
Yes, there's sex on page, but the bigger thing is like, "Hey, I'm actually open enough to be willing to share this with you." And Lauren talks about that a lot in her chapters too, related to him and like how kind of proud she is of him relaxing enough and trusting enough. And because that's what this requires. This is a level of vulnerability for a lot of people that are unwilling to do that. And just saying, like, you should be able to be you in any relationship that you're in with a partner. And I think
Right.
that's a big overarching theme here for sure.
Agree. So after their first show that they watched together, Junior follows Lauren down a stairwell and kind of like grovels on his knees for forgiveness,
Yes.
literally.
Like one of
Yeah,
my favorite
he
scenes.
yeah, he gets on his knees and shows
Literally,
her just
yes.
how sorry he is. So, and this is really Junior giving her control over it because that's a big thing for Lauren to have control because there were aspects of her life when she was younger that she did not have control of, or even in like, her early adulthood. So that
Mhm.
huge for her. However, Lauren's roommates, it knew she went down the staircase and, interrupted because they
Yeah, they just
had
pop the door. "Everything okay
yeah,
over here?" It's like, "What?"
yeah, yeah.
"Yes, we're fine."
It's fine. It's fine. The three of them are part owners, and they have to have a meeting discussing the increasing rents because they have this greedy landlord, and they know it's very difficult. The landlord knows it's very difficult for them to have all the permits and all the requirements to host a members only club that they have, and they're just the landlord super sucks, and they have to figure out how to keep Velvet open because this
Yeah.
is a safe place for all of them. And then that leads a little bit more into really the nitty-gritty of mafia life in terms of how Junior participates and how he honestly leverages his mafia life to benefit Lauren for
Yeah.
really the remainder of the book. And pretty soon, I thought this was going to take a little bit longer for her to discover that Lauren had, like, her best subscriber was Junior, but it actually didn't take too long. And, you know, he's been stalking her in real life, and she's, like, upset about it, but, and, like, has, like, you know, she's like, this is a huge violation, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's like
She's
with
not even that mad
Allie
about
in
it.
terms of,
Yeah.
right, it's like, yeah, that was probably not okay, but, you
She's
know,
kind of oddly comforted by it. Yeah.
a little bit. And Lauren has to come to terms with Nico's involvement in the mafia ultimately, and because he's constantly pulled into family obligations, there's pressures and family dinners that we have to go to. This is where,
Yes.
you know,
And Josh come back and
Allie,
play.
yeah, Allie and
Mhm.
Josh come back, and really, they want, or his family wants him to take over a lucrative olive oil operation. And
Oh,
this
yeah.
is, you know, you wouldn't think olive oil is lucrative, but, you know, obviously they're skimming money. There's going to be some other sketchy shit that goes along with this olive oil operation that he has
Enterprise.
to be
Yeah.
involved in too. Yeah, just so, you know, so he's not just burying bodies all the time. There's more to the family business, which he obviously wants nothing to deal with. He's actually been saving a lot of money so he could
Mhm.
get out from his father and be, like, self-sufficient, which his
Yep.
dad doesn't agree with at all because he wants control. And then Lauren ends up telling Nico that they're having a lot of difficulties keeping Velvet open, and he's like goes into like superhero mode. So he
Yeah.
uses violence and blackmail to secure the club's future. Through resources, he finds out who the landlord is by finding out who the landlord owes money to. So remember Tyler.
Ah.
Yeah. Remember Tyler from Lights Out. And we
Yeah.
think, at least I even made a comment that he was kind of vanilla. At least Allie thought he was vanilla. And
Yeah.
he's just like an
Thinks
accountant,
he's a
you
dick.
know?
He, like, hates him. Like, because they end
Right.
up meeting earlier in the book at the engagement party for Allie
Mm-hmm.
and Josh. It was super cute because we get to know Nico a little bit better, and Lauren finds out that Nick, you know, knows them, and, like, she goes to the house and they meet. And, you know, of course, Allie's knows what she does for a living, and there's no judgment, and they just have, like, the bestest, cutest time, except
Mm-hmm.
Tyler's just a dick, or so Nick thinks. Like, and Josh is like,
Yeah.
he goes to Josh and is like, how can you stand this guy? And he's like, you kind of you just have to get past the initial douchiness and then it's okay. It's like, what? He's like,
He's
okay,
like, gross
man,
beer.
sure.
Like your first beer. Just get it out of your system and then he's fine. He's fine,
Yeah,
which
it's all
Tyler
gonna be fine after that.
ultimately is fine. He helps him out because, you know, you
Yeah.
figure out that like Tyler actually like there are a lot of accounts that he is in charge of because a lot of people owe
Well,
him.
yes.
And the landlord being one of them. And,
Mhm.
you know, Nico ends up finagling a deal so that he's able to take control over the account the landlord has open, and he buys the club from him
The building.
and lowers the
Yeah.
rent. Yep.
Mhm.
But this isn't a like I'm just gonna buy it from you because the landlord's actually pretty skeezy. He has to sever the man's fingers and break into his apartment and really
Yeah.
just use force to get his way. But you know, the guy
You
deserved
mafia
it.
training.
Yeah,
Yes.
guy deserved it. So we look past that.
Sure.
And then there's this recreation of the spicy moment from Lauren's teenage diary that she had, which is it's kind of cute, like, you know,
Oh yeah.
getting it
Going
in an
back.
abandoned
Mhm.
arcade, and he intentionally like rents one out, and they have this moment where he's reenacting things that she like fantasized about as a teenager, and that's to like another healing aspect of them, and it
Yeah.
allows Lauren to reclaim like her youth and these memories that she has, which were very
We're
negative.
tainted and
Yeah,
like kind of make them new again. That's kind of his intent.
yeah,
Yeah.
and also shows that he's like willing to do the emotional load, like all the emotional heavy work. He's actually willing to do it, which is not something that's very like big mafia guy. thing. Emotions are not a thing in terms when you have a line of work that Junior's been working on, but he's willing to do all of that heavy load for her just so they can heal and be together.
Yeah, but there is this huge moment of where there's that whole time that he's like breaking, going and seeing this guy, getting the building, all these different things. There's this moment where Lauren basically like cuts everything off from him and is like, don't ever speak to me again because of her dad. She asks if Nick killed her dad, and he gets really pissed off and can't answer her because of the ties that he has, and it's basically, "Yeah, I did it." Like, "So what if I did? Like, what does that have to do with us?" And, like, really bad
I was
answer.
like,
Yeah. Really bad answer. Know why you did it, but bad answer. And so
Mhm.
for her, this was, like, another example of, okay, we're breaking up. So you have this moment where they, like, break up and get back together at the end. I kind of foresaw this because you know that they're gonna have issues trying to rectify their relationship, and this was, like, a big
Course.
catalyst during that time. How it ends up
Mhm.
working out is he brings the deed of this building to her in an apology, like, 3 days later. She's, like, devastated. She's going through the whole breakup of, like, "I can't believe I let you in again. I'm an idiot. That's why I have a one strike rule. Like, you knew about my father who's been missing this entire time and didn't tell me." And, she doesn't know for sure if he killed him or not because then he gets backtracked, and she's just, like, devastated over this whole thing. But eventually they get through this, and that's where he eventually says, "I got you the building. This is gonna be my ticket to getting out. I have this whole plan." And he made this plan with Josh to figure out a way to get himself out of the family. There we get briefly introduced to Lauren's sister, and it's such a short pause that it's like, I don't know if we'll see her again, but they don't have the best relationship, and that's kind of where
No.
that whole tip off of like, oh yeah, his family's involved in why we don't know where our dad is type of thing. That she thought it was kind of what happened. But anyway, the next part that we move into is like this freedom sprint of how we're going to get there. And now Nick is going to go up against his family to finally go legit with helping Lauren in her business and, like, owning the building and finally getting himself out of the situation that he's in and under the thumb of the mob. And they go to this dinner. The whole plan is to use family against his dad, and his mom is, like, all about this. She's, like, been like, in a prison of a marriage for, decades, and also wants the same thing, wants family, and, really, really loves Lauren and is super happy that they're together, has no judgment over what she does or anything. Can't say the same for his dad. His dad's kind of an asshole, to put it
A little
lightly.
bit.
But ultimately, they uh, go together to this dinner with Josh and Allie, and they leverage this opportunity to hold the cards of the fact that he's bought this building. And he's like, I want out. These are kind of the terms of how I get out. And it doesn't go well at all. Understatement. Not surprising. Nick's dad ends up resorting to violence against Nick. There's this whole blowout. The whole thing happens. But end of the day, what ends up does happening is Josh and Allie and Junior and Nick end up deciding to have dinners together. And instead of the family dinners, they're going to have dinners, four of them. And eventually Tyler comes into this fold, and so do more people. And this is where we end up meeting our next couple who get introduced later. But then the end of the book closes where Lauren and Junior end up performing together at Velvet, as we alluded to earlier, and they start to embrace who they are. Goes a couple months after everything goes down at Junior's dinner, and they had made up and finally give their relationship a legitimate chance.
Mhm.
And the novel closes at this dinner where Tyler introduces his new girlfriend. At the dinner, the roommates are all there, so, everybody's there, and then Tyler walks in. So, of course, because everyone else's roommates are there, Josh's former roommate is there invited as well. Tyler comes in and brings his girlfriend, Stella, and Allie asks, "So, Tyler, how did you meet Stella?" And he goes, "Oh, it's actually a long story." And so that's how we end this book. We know exactly that we're going into Tyler and Stella's book. It's already been said that it's a true enemies to lovers. So we will definitely be getting that in book 3. So we go from Second Chance. Now we're going into a true enemies to lovers book for the 3rd installment of Into Darkness series.
Love to see it.
Yeah. And then one other thing is, so
Oh.
it's going to be Lights Out, Caught Up, Game On. Book 3 will be coming out in March of 2026. And in the meantime, beginning of next year sometime, we might have some more content leading up to the drop of Game On. But I don't know about you, Michelle. Before we get to Mystery Q&A, I wanted to talk really quick about like what you thought of Into Darkness, because we've never really covered true dark romance. Well, I think Brynn Weaver definitely is, but I think her story is different than this. It definitely falls more into there's
The
some
traditional
thriller
dark
aspects,
romance
but it's
sense.
more traditional, yeah.
Yeah.
How did you feel about
So,
covering this versus other things we've discussed or covered?
I mean, I thought it was a fun read. I mean, I never really delved into dark romance very much until this year. So,
Yeah,
and
same.
I'm very picky about what I will read in terms of dark romance, just because there are things that I don't like to yuck on people's yum, but there
No,
are
but
things
if I'm
that
not
I'm
having a good
uncomfortable with.
time, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that like if you're not having a good time and it makes you uncomfortable, don't read it. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what it
exactly.
is. Doesn't matter if it's dark
Exactly.
romance or a fantasy book or if you don't want to read self-help books because that's not your cup of tea or whatever.
I mean,
If it's
someone
not for
telling me I'm
you,
living my life wrong. I just need to read about
right,
Faye.
whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. But if
um,
that's not your thing, like don't force yourself to read something you don't enjoy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I enjoyed these books because it's not just dark the entire time.
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
some light comedy. There isn't there aren't things just for shock value. There's such complexity in terms of the plot, in terms of like the character development. All of it has like
Mhm.
a theme. So, and it's not all dark. There's a lot of lighter moments there. So I enjoyed this. Enjoyed reading dark romance and kind of going into it like we do. So hopefully there's more to come in terms of our dive into dark romance. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, I mean, I think oftentimes those who don't read dark romance don't truly give it a fair shot and maybe make a broad strokes assumptions about what they're getting themselves into. I think this is a really good series to kind of dip your toe into the genre if you're going to try it out.
Agreed.
I think it's a good start into that. I also think that, to your point, this book in particular, yes, heavy on the spice. Yes, heavy on the sex scenes. Yes, graphic sex scenes for sure. However, I do think that there are some really intense other subject matter and themes related to trauma bonding, understanding that you're working through trauma, understanding that, again, openness with a partner, vulnerability. Those are really big themes that are very difficult to tackle just head on. But in a storytelling way, Navessa does that. And I think that that's kind of commends her ability to tell this story, is that there is
Right.
so much more happening than just than just spice. There's a whole lot more here to this story for sure.
Agreed.
All right,
All right.
let's
Now
do
it's time
it.
for Mystery Q&A. These questions haven't been shared with either of us prior to asking. So my question is, now that it's November, when is an appropriate time to decorate for Christmas? Or, yeah.
I feel like I've kind of lately this year I'm more in the game of like we're I feel like it's been really shoved down our throats lately, like we're into November, it's okay to decorate now. And I will say, like, in a lot of parts of the rest of the world, that's totally valid because they don't celebrate Thanksgiving. So as soon as November hits, Halloween's over, that's it. We're getting it. Christmas is acceptable now. Here, I feel like in the US specifically, it's definitely more right after Thanksgiving is appropriate timeline. I We might decorate a little bit early, but I think that in general, our rule of thumb usually is after Thanksgiving, we get the tree and we go. I think we talked about this
Okay.
last year too. So I think that's kind of where I stand. I no longer feel as strongly as I did about like you cannot decorate before Thanksgiving. I don't really care if that brings you joy and
Hmm.
you're makes you happy to have that all up. One of our neighbors we just drove by actually already had all their Christmas stuff out. And I was like, you know what? Good for them. Good for them. I'm happy
That
for
brings
them.
them joy. That's
Yeah,
fine.
honestly, in this economy, I'll take it.
That's fair. Usually we would decorate like the week of Thanksgiving just because we're like all off. We'll get a live tree, we'll do all of that. But because baby is due like
Yeah.
early December, and I know I am not gonna have the energy to decorate once baby
No.
is here. So we are
Mm-mm.
already in Christmas. I have all the Christmas stuff up. But my daughter keeps saying, she's like, it's not Christmas enough. I'm like, okay, well, we'll go spend my money then. And we'll go get more stuff. And
Fun.
yeah, because we don't have enough stuff at all.
I feel
There's
like
not
that's
a bunch
not
of
true,
Christmas
but
stuff.
okay.
No, no, we didn't just put out a whole Christmas
Ah,
village, but it's not Christmas enough, apparently. We do have more certain rooms decorated more so in our house than others. Like, not every room is completely decked out, but
yeah.
like, I have a room with a fireplace. So, that tends to be our more Christmas room. But we don't have the tree up yet because we have to go get a live one. But yeah, she's like, we need more Christmas. I'm like, you know what? Fine. If that makes you happy, why not?
Yeah. I like it. I'm here for it. You've had the baby. Everything has worked out. What are you eating or drinking first? Like, what is going to be your first adult beverage? What is going to be your first meal?
Okay,
What do
so
you want? Yeah.
with my first, it was public sushi. Like with my first one.
Okay.
That was like the first thing that I wanted. And it was during COVID. So it was like
Yeah. Yep.
that's all that was like kind of open that my husband could get
Yeah.
to. But so I'm gonna be really honest with this one. Like with my first one, I was very much like I'm not gonna eat lunch meat, I'm not gonna eat sushi, I'm not gonna do all that stuff. But then I was like, I've never gotten sick from any of the sushi I've ever eaten, and I've never gotten sick from lunch meat. And here we are. So I I haven't deprived myself as much, but I'm gonna say go based on like what I'm craving right now. I really want a Publix chicken tender sub tossed in buffalo
Oh.
sauce. And that's not like something I can't have. That's just something
I
I
was going
really
to
want.
say.
So
So you're just
that'll
going to have
probably be
more of the
something.
same.
Yeah. I mean,
Ah,
I haven't really been eating like raw sushi. So
okay.
that's, but that's what I got with my first one. So I
Okay.
don't know. I will definitely be drinking coffee though, because I mean, you've known, I haven't
Yeah. You haven't been
been
having
drinking
coffee like at
coffee.
all. Yeah.
No. And I'm like a
Yeah.
heavy, like, we have Cafe Bustelo coffee. That's like that's what we drink every day. And when I
It's so
told some of
strong.
my like
Oh my
colleagues
God.
that, they're like, "What? You're drinking espresso every day?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then to go from that to like literally the smell of it makes me want to gag has been
Yeah.
awful. And the only thing I've been able to bear is like a chai latte. So I am definitely getting like a peppermint mocha,
Oh,
Christmas
nice.
hot,
Yeah.
yeah, hot beverage. So, and going back into that. And then if I were to do, you know what, I'm going to keep the same and I'm going to add some rum chata to it. And that's going to be my like
Ooh,
adult beverage. Yeah.
nice. That
And
sounds
they make a
good.
peppermint rum chata too. That
Oh,
is like
yeah.
seasonal. It's
Hmm.
really good. So that's probably going to be my beverage too. What did you have after you had your first child?
So we've talked about this before. I'm allergic to dairy. So oddly, actually, when I was pregnant with my son, I could eat dairy. So it
All the
was kind
cheese?
of, yeah, I eat so many cheese sticks, like fried mozzarella. I don't eat, I haven't ate that since I was pregnant with my son before because I was allergic. Like I couldn't eat it. I would get really sick. I had so many fried cheese sticks. I was actually kind of sad because I knew once I actually gave birth, like, because the body's nuts, like what your human
Yeah.
body can do. And I knew that, like, all of the joy I had from eating cheese was going to be gone again for some reason. Like, I knew that wasn't going to stick around. So I was kind of like the opposite. I got to eat like the things I didn't normally get to eat. Like, I got to have so much good stuff. I still kind of avoided ice cream and stuff, but I definitely like went to town on cheese, like,
The
fully.
mozzarella sticks.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And I had
I don't
such
blame
a
you.
craving for cheese and, like, calcium so
Me
bad.
too. Me
Yeah,
too.
and so I was gonna be upset when that ended, and it did. Sure enough, as soon as he was out of my body, that was the end of that. It was fun while it lasted. Uh,
Yeah.
I wanted a margarita and a glass of wine like real bad. So those were like two things I definitely
Fair.
wanted. But I wasn't like jonesing or anything like that. I do think I missed coffee more than anything else because you are super
Mhm.
kind of limited on your caffeine intake. So
1
you
cup,
do have to wean
maybe.
off of it. Yeah, you're like really. So I definitely was excited to go back to coffee for sure on a more regular
Mhm.
basis than what I was having it at the time. But yeah, contrary to popular belief on we have a drink of the episode, I wasn't. I knew I was gonna be still not drinking heavily just because of the path that I was gonna try to go down. So it wasn't a big deal. That didn't bother me as
Mhm.
much. But having a nice drink here or there and enjoying one with your spouse is always a good time. So I did miss
Right.
out on that. But luckily, now I do think too, we just have so many options for mocktails and so many different ways that you can have a
Right.
similar drink that you can make it look very similar and have the same type of experience. You don't really feel like you're missing out as much as it used to be for sure.
Right. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. So, all
I
right.
was just curious
Well,
this time if there was something that like stuck out to you that you were excited about.
not not really. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, it's just like the caffeine and the coffee aspect of it. And it's not like I'm craving caffeine. I just really want the coffee to hit my soul. Like every morning, just drinking a nice hot cup of coffee, it just awakens your soul. And I've just been
I don't
drinking
know, there is
water.
also something about, like, the baby being sleeping initially, like, when you're in the first initial phases, which I think you might be able to enjoy this time, whereas I think in your first, you're not able to enjoy this at all. But, like, I'm hoping for you, fingers crossed, that, like, you're gonna
He
now have those
sleeps.
slow mornings. Yeah, but, like, have those slow mornings with the new baby and not be panicking that something's being not done right or something isn't getting washed or something like like those things that like as a first time mom that you're kind of just like on edge about everything. I'm hoping for you like
Tracking
second time
feedings,
around. Right.
tracking,
Every single nap
milestones,
time, like every
every
single to the
yeah.
minute. They gotta go down right now. Like I feel like you're a
And they
lot
have
more
to eat
stressed
every
about that as a
2
first time.
hours.
Yes, like you have to
Yeah.
be really and I feel like as a second time mom, you're a lot more what does my child need versus like trying to
Right.
impose all the things you've read because those are the things. Not to say that those are not the good or bad things, but I do think like there is something to be said about practice. And once you have one under your belt, that's a lot of practice. So I feel like hopefully I'm hoping that for two there's less stress and that you can enjoy some things. That's my hope for
I
you.
mean, I honestly feel like going in, I'm more prepared, and I feel like my biggest thing, and I guess my biggest piece of advice if you're gonna be a new mom is stay off social media, because someone's just
Yes.
gonna make you feel like you're not doing enough and make you feel like
Oh
shit. Just
yeah.
stay off social media.
Or also
Um,
those like same month birth groups.
yeah.
Were you on
Really,
those?
mom groups? Yeah,
Yeah.
I
They can
was,
be
and,
really
like, some mom
toxic too.
groups,
To be really
they
careful.
can be, and, like, sometimes you're going support because, like, you need help with something, and there's some not saying all groups are like that, but there are a lot of groups
No.
that is, like, trashing this and, the controversy of, like, are you breastfeeding? Are you bottle feeding? Are you doing all that? And either way, no matter what you do as a mom, you're gonna feel shamed for whatever you do. So my biggest piece of advice for anyone listening is stay off social media. Just don't do
Yeah.
it. Even if
Don't
you
do
have
it.
questions, just
Go
there's
read
some
your
good
book.
information out there, but yeah, go read your book. Go read your fantasy. It'll be fine. The
Yeah.
baby will be fine. They're
Yeah.
resilient. They're
Go
good.
to a professional for Pete's sakes. Don't go to social
Right.
media. Go to a
Agreed.
consultant, go to your doctor, go to somebody who knows, who can actually like help you.
Qualified
Don't
individual.
don't
Yeah.
yeah, don't go to social media.
He's out there. Make you feel
Yeah,
bad. All right. So before we wrap
exactly.
up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Next week, we are getting ready for Brimstone.
Mhm.
We have a lot going on with our preparation for Brimstone. Brimstone comes out November 18th. So, of course, we're not going to start our immediate coverage until after Thanksgiving. We're going to take the week of Thanksgiving off to be with our families. We hope that you will do the same. But in preparation for November, wanted to give you the heads up of kind of what our plan is. We are closing this series because there's not a book coming out again until March, like we said, for Game On. So we're going to close out here. We're going to start our coverage of Brimstone. We're going to cover Brimstone really in full. Michelle is due in December, but we're going to have plenty of Brimstone coverage for you through December. We'll have to see who will join us for Brimstone. So more to come there, and we're happy to have you join us for Brimstone and Brimstone Prep with Quicksilver and where we're at with that whole storyline and go back into the Fae and Alchemy world.
Yeah. And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Caught Up or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
Yeah, you can visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, of course, to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.